Hey, so I was telling you that I've gained a bunch of weight lately. I've gained like 25 pounds.
Okay.
Um, so with that comes a lot of hunger. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get all this new fishing equipment technology. What is it, Active Target?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe a 360 so I can go catch some crappie to feed my fat butt all the time.
It'd probably do it for you. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fish Life Podcast. Hey, tonight we are going to talk about the ultimate bass fishing electronic setup. We're also going to talk about Active Target versus Garmin Livescope. Which one's better? Which one would we prefer to have? So we're going to go in detail on all that. Do me a favor, as you guys get in here on the live stream tonight, go ahead and drop us a thumbs up if you enjoy these. Also, go ahead and drop us a comment so we know who we're talking to and we can say some hellos and how you doings to all of you fine folks that are joining us tonight. Looks like there's a few of y'all starting to get in here now, so should be a great night. We're also going to talk about current fishing conditions like we always do. Mm-hmm. We're going to go over what should be a really good week of fishing weather-wise this next week. And we've also got a little something special at the end that we've worked out. We haven't really worked out. It's just an idea because we don't pregame or pre-plan anything around here.
You would say that we got a little festive with this one?
Yeah, we're going to do a bass fishing Christmas list is what we're going to do.
That's right.
It's going to, and I think we ought to do what we always do, have a competition because everything's a competition.
Absolutely.
With us.
Y'all tell us which one has the best Christmas list.
Me and Chris are going to create bass fishing Christmas list within certain parameters.
That's right.
And that'll be at the end tonight, and you guys can vote in the comments on who had the better Christmas list.
We'll explain the rules as I make them up later on in the podcast.
Yeah, as he makes them up. Listen, people talk about, we're going off script on this. Right. Dog, I've lived my entire life off script. Like, I don't even know what a script is, Jack.
If I had to read a script to go my everyday life, go through it, I think I'd be more lost than I am now.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, part of the problem is neither one of us read real good.
No. No. People hand me something, and I'm like, it's like a bunch of squiggles.
There is just a few things that we're good at in usually academia-type categories.
No.
Are far from our areas of expertise.
I'm good at arguing. I'm good at getting off work early to go fishing, and that's about it.
He said sneaking out of work to go fishing. That's a good thing to be good at, though.
Yeah,
sneaking out of work to go fishing.
I think worse things to be good at. So.
Yeah. Well, before we get off into this electronics and current conditions and all that, let's say some hellos to some folks. We got Brian Howland here. We got J-Bo, Bigfoot Bass Guides in here. Big John is here. Jim Richards. Andrew Alphabet's here. He says, how about the Maggies getting left out? We ain't going to discuss that.
I don't even want to get into it.
We ain't going to go into that because we don't want this to turn into a hour, 2 hour, 3 hour long rant. We might not ever end this podcast.
Billy and I both have to work tomorrow.
That's right. Sean Boland's in the house. We got Big C, Mark King, Walker Davidson, Dustin Wright, Jared Carson. J-Bo says he about won a tournament this weekend, and we caught them all using Livescope. He's addicted now. Yeah, that figures. Yeah. J-Bo is a little bit nerdy, though. Like, I love Jonathan Bowling. Got a lot of respect for him, but he's kind of a nerd, so it doesn't surprise me that he would walk right into that Livescope situation and, like, nerd out on it and be real good at it.
He knows how to do camera angles, too. Like, he's really good at taking pictures. I'm not saying to make something look like something. I'm just saying, like, trust me. I'll show you some pictures.
I don't want to know what kind of pictures John has been sending you.
Pictures.
I don't
Pictures.
know anything about the right angled pictures that J-Bo's been sending
He knows.
you.
He knows what I'm talking about. He's like, bro, he had a buddy come down.
I thought we were in a whole different podcast category for a second. I wasn't sure where we were going with that.
No, he had a buddy come down last year, and he was like, he called me, and he said, bro, you have got to see some of these pictures we took. And I'm like, all right, send them to me. He sends them to me, and I'm like, those are really good pictures. Who took those? He said it's all about the angles, brother.
Notice he still hasn't said exactly what was in the pictures. It's weird.
Crankbaits.
I'm feeling very awkward at this moment. I'm gonna be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
Current fishing conditions for Northeast Texas and in the Lake Fork area. Let's go ahead and so that's a professional, smooth transition we just did right there.
Like butter.
You know, one thing that's funny is you watch the Luke Duncan podcast, which I highly recommend. It's a very good podcast. Mm-hmm. But you watch his podcast, and he always says professionally unprofessional. I'm like, look, dog, like, I ain't never said nothing to him about it, but in my head, I'm thinking, bro, have you ever, which he probably hasn't, because like three people watch this one, but have you ever seen one of our podcasts? You want to talk about, like, nobody's more unprofessional at podcasting than we are.
Yeah, I feel like if we would have copyrighted that a long time ago.
Yeah. we got like some janky audio half the time.
Yeah.
We usually have to cut off in the middle of the live stream to get a phone number for our guest.
Oh, dude, back in the day.
Sometimes we don't even, a lot of times we don't even have guests. It's
back
just
in the
me
day-
and you.
Yeah, back in the day, somebody's like, y'all hear that noise in the background? It's me over here chewing my fingernails, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Professionally unprofessional. Copyright scene circle.
He might be professionally unprofessional. We are expertly unprofessional.
Absolutely.
Speaking of things that we're good at, being unprofessional is something we're experts at.
Copyright scene circle. Let's go.
That's right. That's right. We got Cody Mays has done joined us. Ron Foreman, Tim Peterson, Mark King, got a few more joiners. That's great, man. We appreciate all you guys. Y'all continue to hit those thumbs up and drop those comments so we know who we're talking to. So, what is that comment right there? Let's see. J-Bo's talking about some more Livescope stories. He said Big C had some other local hammers who scoped a 2-day wait of 30.21 and they took the victory. Oh, there you go.
That's not bad.
Oh, not Big C. There was some other local hammers that beat him. Hey, either way though, I mean you can't win. Listen, fishing tournaments, you don't win the vast majority of fishing tournaments that you enter.
Right.
You just don't. Winning them is hard. So there ain't no shame in not winning every derby that you sign up for. Although it does suck as a competitive person, you hate that. But the reality is, Kevin Van Dam doesn't win the vast majority of tournaments he
It
enters.
makes me feel a lot better because I don't win a lot of them at all.
Have you ever won one?
Yeah, I won a couple. We just get second a lot though.
We get second. You do get second a lot.
I know.
All right, current fishing conditions right now. Actually, man, this week should be like a really good week of winter fishing. We are going to have a little bit of warm trending water after a whole lot of cool trending. It may, if you've been on some fish, like if you've been out there a lot and you've been on some cold trending fish, that may monkey you up. But for the general average angler, it'll be easier to just go fish around and get some bites. We're going to have a couple of 69-degree days. We're going to have some lows climb up into the upper 40s, which is about where some of our cold water temperatures are. So that water will warm trend this week a little bit. Not drastically, but it will some, and that will help the fish. You know, it'll pick their metabolism up a little bit and make them feed a little bit. And so it should be a really good week. Either way, it's going to be an absolutely amazingly pleasant week to be out on the lakes, especially early in the week. Now, later in the week, we're going to have good weather, but it's going to be windy. It's going to be extremely windy later this week.
Welcome to East Texas winter.
Yeah, it is. It's going to blow, I think, Thursday and Friday, which I don't know how many people are going to be fishing on Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve for that matter. But if you are, it might be a good time to go. Because it's windy, that don't mean it ain't. That might help the fishing even more.
I'd always rather be windy than not when it comes to fishing. Just about all.
Unless they're spawning.
Unless they're spawning.
Right. Unless they're spawning.
You know, there's ways to. I feel like there's more ways to hide in the wind than create wind.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you can't create it. That's right. Yeah, and you know, speaking of spawning, if you want to, this week would be a phenomenal week to go to some power plant lakes and fish for some spawning bass. If you want to go sight fish them, you can certainly do that on Welsh and Brandy Branch. Martin Creek, it's a lot harder to sight fish them at, just because of the water color and the vegetation and the different junk that's in the water at Martin Creek. It's a lot harder to sight fish them. But you can still, on Martin Creek, fish really shallow and catch spawning bass with, you know, Texas rigs and frogs and swim baits and just your normal spawning time of year type baits. What?
You said frog.
I said frog.
There's a couple words that'll always get me to turn my nose up. Jig, frog.
Yeah.
Those always.
Gets you a little, makes you turn a little bit on the inside.
Yeah. You know me.
I hear you. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, you can do that, and that'll be great fishing, especially like Welsh, sight fishing, weightless plastics, swim baits again would be a good option there. Brandy Branch, man, same thing. Chatterbait, swim bait, sight fishing. Might even be able to catch them on top water at those lakes. I'm sure you could.
When you talk about swim bait, are you talking about like a 5-inch tail slapper swim bait?
Well, that's a personal decision.
Or like a baby poacher?
You could throw a smaller swim bait like the 6-inch Divine swim bait. All the way up to you could go out there and throw a Smash Tech Convict around. I mean, I've caught fish on Smash Tech Convicts on Brandy Branch this time of year.
Yeah.
In fact, years ago, we were throwing big swim baits on Brandy Branch in December. So that's a personal choice on what size swim bait you want to throw and how big of a fish do you want to try to catch.
Right.
You know, for sure.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on how you want to go about it. So as far as the cold water lakes go, I mean, I'm probably still going to throw that jig in a creek channel just because I'm really hard-headed about fishing that way this time of year. I love to fish that way this time of year. So I would still be wanting to fish a jig in a creek channel. Now I'll go off the main lake and go back to some shallower creek channels, creek channel bends. But what I'm also going to do is I'm also on these cold water lakes. I'm also going to have a chatterbait and a lipless crankbait, and I'm going to find whatever vegetation I can, and I'm going to beat it to death. Because I think there's really going to be some fish with this warmer weather this week. They're going to pull up and get a little more active on those flats adjacent to those ditches and drains in that grass. And so that would be a great way to go about fishing this week as well. Hopefully some of you guys are off work and can get out there and enjoy this awesome weather we're about to have.
Is it time for the top secret guide jig? Is it already time?
That's kind of come and gone.
Is it?
Yeah, we worked on a finesse jig a lot in like October, November. That's kind of come and gone for me. I'm on the half-ounce black and blue jig now.
No, I'm talking about the other top secret guide jig.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's got a few different strands on the backside.
Oh, with the orange on the belly? Yeah, that ain't no secret. I've showed that on the channel many times. We can say that, but yeah.
It's still top secret.
Yeah, half-ounce black and blue. And I do like to take a black and blue jig and add about 6 to 8 strands of orange on the belly of it around here, and it works really well.
Believe it or not, people, like, this has been years and years ago, but I was out with Billy one day. We were throwing a black and blue jig, and for whatever reason, that couple strands of orange, it just gets more bites. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever know why, but it works. And that was always one of my favorite things.
We got a couple questions. Billy, can I get your recommendations for night fishing guide during the winter time? Night fishing guide during the winter. There are some guys that do it. I want to say that Joseph Hogue, I don't know exactly who all runs specifically night fishing trips in the wintertime. Not just everybody does it. Somebody outside my garage right now. I don't know who it is. Anyway, if we get kidnapped, at least it'll be on live coverage. And everybody will see it go down.
Make sure you got your resolution turned on high so you can help the authorities.
I know Joseph Hogue. He's a good guy and a good fishing guide. And I know he runs a lot of night trips. I don't know if he does those night trips in the wintertime or not, but I know that he does a lot of night trips. And I know he's a heck of a fisherman.
Yes.
And a really good guy. So that's probably the one guy I can think of that I know runs a whole lot of night trips that I would recommend during the wintertime. Jeff Partridge runs night trips, but I think he just does that primarily in the summer. I don't think he focuses on nighttime stuff during the winter. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I've just noticed him doing it mostly in the summer, but
yeah.
Not to say he doesn't do it in the winter. I don't know.
Yeah, and there's some other guys that do it. I don't know. I don't want to leave. I know I'm leaving people out here,
right,
but it's not a common question. People don't often ask.
I'm trying to rack my brain right now.
People don't often ask about winter night fishing trips during the winter, so I'm kind of drawing a little bit of a blank. But I would hit up Joseph Hogue first, probably. Have I ever fished Squaw Creek? I have not ever fished Squaw Creek.
No, I heard good things about it.
Yeah, I have too, but it's closed. Nobody can fish Squaw Creek right now. It's a government deal. It's a nuclear power plant on that lake, and they've shut it down for the entire year because of all the craziness with the COVID, with the Rona.
The Rona.
That's right. Hey, man, let's get into the soup du jour, man. The topic of the day in the world of bass fishing, everybody in this industry, the only thing they're talking about is electronics.
I've got so many questions, and you no idea. You're like, we're getting ready for this deal, and he goes, oh, stop.
So much more room for activity.
Yeah, golly. I'm like, man, I got so many questions.
Yes, you do. So we're going to discuss that, and I've gotten in a boat with a Livescope. I've gotten a boat, which you guys, there's a video coming out tomorrow where we go use a Livescope on the same body of water where the video that came out last Monday, we were using a Humminbird 360. We went to the same body of water, went to the same pieces of structure, so we could get a really good, solid comparison on the same piece of water of 360 and Livescope. Now, I've been exploring around with that. I've also been doing a little bit of online research, looking at a lot of the, they're advertisements is what they are for the Lowrance Active Target.
But nonetheless, you get an idea of what.
There's been some good videos put out there by, I can't remember if it's Hunter or Fletcher, but one of the Shrike boys did one. Edwin Evers has done one. And a couple of guys that actually work at Lowrance have even done some. Bass Talk Live had a podcast with the product manager or something like that from Lowrance. And it was a really good discussion and really informative. So I've got an idea of, after using the Livescope more here lately and in other people's boats, and hearing all the discussion and all the details and looking at the videos of the Active Target, I've got a pretty good feel, I think, for what the Active Target is going to be even before I've gotten in the boat with one. Now, I do want to get in the boat with one before I make my final decision, but I can tell you that I don't think that the 360 is not in competition to me with the Livescope and Active Target. It's two different, totally different options. And before this discussion's over tonight, I'm going to tell you guys exactly, if I had to go put electronics on a boat right now today, exactly how I would do it, what my exact setup would be. So we're going to get into that too. And if you guys have questions that y'all want to ask about electronics, please drop them in the comments. But the 360 and the Livescope, the real-time forward-facing transducer, those are different tools, man.
I've seen a bunch of pros say the same exact thing. They're like, it's just...
It's like saying, do you want a hammer or a crescent wrench? Well, it depends on what I'm doing.
Right, exactly.
It depends on the job I've got in front of me. They're two different tools, and I really think, I understand that there's a lot of money involved in these electronics units.
Oh, yeah.
But if money's not an object and you want to have the best of the best to be the best fisherman you can and have the best equipment, I think you got to have both. You got to have a 360, and you've got to have either a Livescope or a Lowrance Active Target, and you've got to have 2D sonar, down imaging, and side imaging at your console at least, and good mapping.
Yeah.
Like that needs to be at your console, and on your bow, up by your trolling motor, you need a 360 and a live sonar, Livescope or Active Target.
Mm-hmm.
As far as which one is better between Livescope and Active Target, man, that is a great debate right now. Livescope got here and established a big presence with that technology.
Was there some drag with that? You know what I mean? Because I feel like I heard Livescope a ton, but as of the last few months now, since the Patrick Walters tournament, it seems like I hear it 10 times more than I did.
Yes.
And you primarily heard it at first with crappie guys.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. So, yeah, for a long time when Livescope first came out, a lot of guys hadn't figured it out how to use it specifically for bass fishing effectively.
Right.
There were some guys that have, and they were being real quiet about it because, like, dog, if you were the first one that picked up an Alabama rig,
right,
and you were whacking them like Paul Elias whacked them on Gunnersville back in them days, you wouldn't tell anybody either. Exactly. That's just the culture of fishing. When guys find things that work really, really good. So the first guys that figured out these Livescope deals, they weren't telling anybody. Well, then when you had the live coverage, the 4 days of live coverage that comes with the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament, and you sit there and you watch Patrick Walters win the tournament by a bigger margin than anybody's ever won an Elite Series tournament.
Yeah.
Well, that brings it to the forefront. Yeah. I mean, that was the moment, to me, that it was brought into everybody's eyes that, oh, yeah, this is a game changer in bass fishing.
Right.
This is a whole different ballgame in bass fishing. So, and that's why the entire industry is talking about this.
Right.
And also, I think Lowrance, I don't think they were going to have this released at this point in time.
Right.
In fact, people are ordering them and aren't going to get them until January. Like, they said they released it on December 4th. They released it for order. It's not getting installed on folks' boats. The only folks that have it are like dealer hookups,
right,
pro staff hookups, like the big tour guys, like Shaw Grigsby and the Schrock guy and Edwin Evers. Those guys have it. But as far as you being able to go down there and buy one and they put it on your boat, it's still not available right now. You can go order one, and then you'll get it when they finally get it here.
So you think all that live coverage put some giddy up in
I think what happened was the live coverage with Patrick Walters and everybody freaking out about it in the bass fishing industry made Lowrance push the product, the release date, the announcement as early as they could.
Yeah.
That's what
which makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody at Lowrance saw, the Livescope, all that good stuff, and they're like, okay,
everybody did.
We're going to do this, and blah, blah, blah. It's inevitable that it's going to venture its way over to bass fishing. We just don't yet know how and when.
And Humminbird has theirs coming too, and I think the word on Humminbird is March. They're mega live. It's basically going to be the same thing.
I think that Humminbird has an extra bullet in their gun, maybe not pertaining to the Livescope-ish, but that 360 is such a major tool that everybody uses with the Active Target and the Livescope.
Humminbird has a dog in the fight that nobody's competing with.
Correct.
Right now.
And so they've kind of got a free pass, so to speak.
Yeah, that 360 is totally different than the live stuff.
Right.
And I can tell you, for me personally, like my new boat is going to have a 360 on it.
Yeah.
This is where my head is right now. Now I reserve the right to change my mind.
Right.
but right now my new boat will have a Lowrance Live on the console for mapping, 2D sonar, down imaging, and side imaging. Mm-hmm. It will have that. And it will for sure have a Humminbird 360 on the bow. And I think I'm going to go with a Lowrance Active Target. So let's talk about Active Target versus Garmin. Which one is better? The Lowrance Active Target, the big deal to me, and if you guys saw the screenshot, the thumbnail that we posted, I pulled that off a Lowrance video. If you look at the detail on some of their imaging, you can see those fish, those bass that are close to the boat there, you can see their tail fins and their dorsal fins. On Livescope, they're just blobs of different sizes.
Right.
Is what they are. They're blobs. And in a lot of the discussion that's going out there, the Lowrance supposedly has a better technology, the Active Target. It has a higher resolution. It's like, bro, when we used to watch TV on the antenna, then they came out with digital cable. Like everybody thought digital cable was the best looking thing ever.
Right.
And when Livescope came out, we all thought Livescope was the best looking thing ever.
Right.
And then they came out with like 1080p HD TV.
Right.
Well, they first came out with 720. They came out with HD TV. Then we thought that was the best TV shot we ever saw. Then they came out with 1080. And then they got 4K. And that's kind of what you're seeing here with these real-time electronics.
Yeah.
You had the Livescope that came out. Well, now you got the Lowrance one coming out with a higher resolution. Now, what I can promise you is whatever you buy this year, there'll probably be a better one out in the next year or two.
Yeah, for sure. It's inevitable. It's just like with anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, TVs are probably the easiest example.
Because it's a visual thing
Correct.
that you look at,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and so the Lowrance, by all means, right now, looks like it has a better picture, more detailed picture. One thing that I've noticed from using the Livescope is it's not real detailed. Like, you don't get a real good picture of structure. Like, you don't see the tree in real good detail. Them rock piles that are in the video tomorrow, they don't look as crisp and clean as they did on the 360.
Right.
The brush pile, same thing. It looks like the brush pile literally just looks like a blob,
Right.
like a big giant blob. Almost looks like if you didn't know it was a brush pile and know it was there, you might be like, well, is that a school shed? Oh, it's not moving. It's a brush pile.
Right.
Like, it's not a detailed picture of structure at all on Livescope. Having that more detailed picture, and on that same screenshot that we used today, you can count every branch on the trees in there, 30 feet out, 40 feet out. That makes it a better product. If it's all the functionality is basically the
Right.
same. They've all got perspective mode now if you turn the transducer sideways. They've all got straight down. They've all got forward facing, and it's all real-time imaging. Mm-hmm. If you're getting a better quality picture in that, that makes it a better product.
Yeah, it's a better product.
That's the only thing different. One thing that I like also is on the Lowrance one, there's a little icon in the top right corner that gives you, it's like a directional deal. So it kind of, not only, if it's mounted to your trolling motor shaft, you can tell by which direction your trolling motor arrow is pointing, where your Livescope's pointing exactly. But there's actually a deal on the top of your screen that turns as you turn your transducer. So it shows you exactly what angle from you sitting here looking at so I'm looking at my graph right here. Mm-hmm. And that little arrow is pointing this way. I know I need to make my cast right that way. Or it's pointing this way. I know I need to make my cast on that exact line. That's going to help you. And that's a big deal because, folks, let me tell you something about these Livescopes. You don't just turn it on, see a fish swimming, and throw right to him. Like, it gets kind of hard to be precise, to stay with the fish.
Yeah.
And to keep your bait in front of the screen where you can see your bait. That's a challenging thing that what I've learned is I'm first starting to use it on other people's boats. That's something that takes practice. It's not something you're just going to go out there and do the first day. So having that little orientation arrow in front of your boat on that little icon up in the top right corner on the Active Target, I kind of think that's a little bit of a big deal.
Yeah, I think so too.
To help you hit the line because it shows you exactly where your cone's pointing to.
Yeah. Well, because what I was going to bring up is everybody says front facing, the front facing transducer or whatever. Yeah. Well, when I'm mounted to a trolling motor shaft that's constantly doing this, it might be front facing, but just you as a person, you think, okay, there's a fish right there, and you cast right there, but your trolling motor might be pointed that way whenever you're doing that.
Yeah, well, you can tell by the angle of your trolling motor head. If your transducer's mounted to your trolling motor shaft, which most of them are,
right.
which I recommend mounting it to something you can turn independently. I think that's a way better way to do it.
Yeah.
But if it's mounted to your trolling motor, then you can look at your trolling motor area and know which direction you're pointed roughly.
Exactly.
But I found that it's not just super precise. Like, it's hard to be accurate on that window and stay on that fish. That's a challenge. It's not just something you pull up and do. And that's why, a lot of other guys in that Bassmaster Elite Series tournament had that Livescope on their boat. But Patrick Walters was the one that was doing it. He had it tuned in where he was more efficient, more accurate, and able to keep those fish and his bait in front of his Livescope more of the day. And so, yes, once you get it dialed in and you figure it out, does it make it a lot easier to see fish and learn how they're reacting to baits and dial them in and catch them? Of course it does. But there is an art and a skill in and of itself, from what I'm finding, on being able to do that.
Yeah.
Being able to actually keep the fish on the screen and keep it pointing in the right direction and keep your bait right there.
Yeah, Patrick Walters, that wasn't his second day on in that graph, is what you're saying. Like, he's had plenty of practice. And actually, when we talked to him, he said he'd been practicing on that unit.
Yeah.
And just learning with that thing for a long time.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. And that is one thing that I love about the Humminbird 360 unit is it circles around and pans and puts the image on the screen there in a circle around your boat. As your boat shifts directions, it moves the structure.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
anytime you look at the screen, you know exactly which direction that piece of structure's in. That's great, and that's kind of what this Active Target has on the front. It doesn't move it on the screen, but it tells you what direction your screen's pointing, which is a similar process to what the 360 is doing. I think that's a big advantage. I think the resolution's a big advantage.
Yeah.
Now, Garmin's probably going to come out with updates and stuff that's going to catch up to the Active Target.
I'll tell you.
But when I first went into this deal, I was like, dude, there's no way that the Active Target's going to be better than the Garmin. They're the ones that invented the technology.
Right.
They're going to make sure they have the better technology. I really was skeptic, and I'm a Lowrance guy and always have been. You know that.
Yeah,
you guys
absolutely.
that watch channel a lot know that. I was really skeptical, and I would have told you 2 weeks ago that I'm going to end up with a Garmin Livescope on my next boat. Like, I would have told you that straight up and down. Now I honestly think I'm not going to have a Garmin. I think I'm going to have big Lowrance at the console, regular down image, side image, like we talked about earlier. I'm going to have a Lowrance Active Target system on the front deck with a Humminbird 360 right next to it. That's what I think. To me, I think that's what the ultimate electronic setup is right now.
I'll tell you another thing that I saw on that Active Target deal was there's an option in there where you can click and it gives you latitude and longitude lines, and it basically explains distances.
Well, it gives you grid lines where you can see. So if you see a fish and he swims across that line at 40 feet, you know it's exactly 40 feet away from you.
Yes, that's a game changer.
Which those numbers are always at the top of the screen, so you can tell about. But you can turn on, and Garmin does that too.
Right.
Garmin does that too. But you can turn on those grid lines and see exactly how far away they are.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is crazy.
Like, I mean, this turns into a video game. Like, it really does.
It is in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it is. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from the Garmin Livescope. We've seen the capabilities of it. I think that Lowrance Active Target, it's obviously just a knockoff of the Garmin Livescope. Obviously, it's the same thing. I just think they've done it with a little bit better technology. And they took the first edition of something, saw a couple areas they can improve on it, and that's what they've done. So I think it's a better option right now.
I can't wait to see, because I'm sure we'll see this on the channel, months down the line, like a summertime jig bite, football jig. I want to see a jig hopping through a school of fish where you can actually see a fish and not just a blob.
Well, and you know what's going to drive you crazy is how many times when you have that on your boat that you move your bait and the fish reacts to it and doesn't bite.
Exactly.
Because we've talked about this before. I tell customers this. You'd be amazed how many fish have looked at your bait today.
Oh, dude.
And like, you spend more time on the water, you start to understand, and you start to understand your electronics better. You start to realize just how many fish are in a body of water, especially around here, in these lakes around here, like Fork.
Yeah.
And so you know that like you're presenting baits right to fish, and some of them are coming over there and looking at it, and it would drive you crazy if you knew how many times a fish went like this and didn't bite.
Dude, I used to take my brother fishing all the time, and we'd be fishing, not getting bit for a little while and whatever. And he's like, dude, there might not be fish over here. And I'm like, bro, you don't even understand how many fish are under this boat right now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and if you think about that, I always relate a lot of this live transducer fishing to sight fishing because it's looking at them while you're trying to catch them, trying to make them react, all that stuff. If you think about when you're bed fishing, how many times a bass will come up to your bait and not eat it.
Yeah.
And especially if you don't know he's looking at it and you just leave it sitting there or you're just slowly dragging it, how many times would a bedfish stare at your bait and not eat it?
And your bait is as as much predatory to a bass at that exact moment as it ever will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they still won't eat it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, when you think about it in those terms, well, it makes sense that a lot of them will come look at your bait and not eat it. I think the whole key is what we saw at Patrick Walters, getting accurate and efficient with keeping the fish on the screen and your bait on the screen.
Yeah.
And then the other key thing, the skill to this live site fishing or live scope fishing is learning to understand which fish will bite and which fish won't bite, just like sight fishing. The biggest component to sight fishing, other than being able to see them better than other people, if you can see them in dirtier, deeper water, you have an advantage because you can find fish that nobody else is fishing for. Other than that, the biggest component to sight fishing in the springtime is reading the fish's attitude and knowing which fish will bite and which fish won't bite. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be the ultimate skill for this live scope fishing that we're working our way into as an industry here. I mean, that's where it's going. The more of this you do, that's going to be the skill that separates the great from the not so great.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be mind-blowing to me standing on the front of a boat watching fish either eat my bait or not eat my bait.
Yeah.
It's going to blow my mind either way, because I don't think we'll ever really necessarily understand what it takes to get a bite or to get every fish to bite.
Well, it'll change. It's like everything else in bass fishing. It'll constantly change.
Yeah, exactly. But,
so it will be a constant evolving skill.
Yeah.
But that's the skill. Like, that's the skill that's going to separate guys.
For sure.
Is going to be the guys that can understand which fish will bite and which fish won't.
Yeah.
By their positioning, by their speed they're moving, swimming around, like all those different factors, their general body language attitude that you can now see on the screen, you're going to have to understand which ones will bite. That's going to be the skill.
Technology, man.
Man, we've been getting a lot of comments. Let's read some of them. Those of us stuck in the back of the boat won't even notice a difference.
Hey, I feel your pain, homie.
The cone is smaller on the Lowrance, which should make pinpointing a fish easier. If you adjust on the live scope, you can see the detail you are missing. Well, listen, I adjusted that live scope every way you could adjust it the other day. I'm not an expert on live scope. I've only used it a few times, maybe a handful of times at this point. I'm pretty good at understanding images on electronics, though. Like, I've stared at images under the water on electronics forever. So I can interpret electronics pretty good, and I know how to dial settings in on down scan and side scan and all that. And I'm telling you right now, I dialed that thing, and there's really not on a live scope. That's one thing I do like about it. It's very, very simple to use. Very simple to use. It loads up and starts up almost immediately, very fast. And dialing it in is really, really simple. There's not a lot. You can change palettes. You can basically change the contrast. Sensitivity is called gain on that deal. That's what they call it. And you can turn dial, and there's a dial. You just dial it up, dial it down. And you can kind of move that dial back and forth slowly till you get it exactly where you want it. And we messed around with it a lot.
Yeah.
And on the same body of water where I saw a crystal clear image of rock piles, those rock piles you could see them, definitely tell they were there and know what they were, but the definition of the image wasn't nearly as good. Not nearly as good. And you guys will see that. That video comes out tomorrow evening.
Definition and resolution are the key factors of the way people are going to view it as the best or not.
We got another Chris.
Oh.
We got another Chris. He says, I think electronics will get to a point where it will be able to analyze fish behavior and tell you which ones will bite versus
You're probably not wrong, Chris. I ain't never met Chris I didn't agree with. I tell you what.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Who knows where we're going at this point?
Like, this fish is swimming 2.6 miles an hour. He ain't going to bite today. Like, okay.
We got a guy that I don't know that he is, but he sounds like a Hummingbird fan, and I can't exempt 03, I think is his screen name here. He says, once Hummingbird Mega Live comes out, then we can see who comes out on top. Yeah, I mean, then we can.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Right now, like, there's a lot of us. The Hummingbird Mega 360, by the time it comes out, or Mega Live, by the time it comes out, we're going to be in the middle of fishing season.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of guys that are trying to get their boat set up or trying to figure out what electronics they want right now. And it's just not an option. So you got to decide between Active Target or Livescope.
Yeah.
At this moment today, for me, I'm going to say Active Target's the deal.
think honestly, the 360 sales have gone up too, because I think a lot of people are pairing it up just like you were talking about.
They need to.
Yeah.
I 100% believe that people need to do that. Dustin Wright says just to see how the fish react to your bait is amazing in itself. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. What? JJ Fig says, I'm too broke to buy one. LOL.
You
yeah.
too?
Yeah, Sharon Davidson says us too. I hear you.
Hey.
I totally understand that sentiment. Somebody asked if I'm drinking Crown and Sprite. I'm not. I'm drinking tea tonight. I'm getting up super early and taking a little trip down to another lake about an hour and a half from here tomorrow. So I'm not drinking tonight. Or I'm not drinking Crown tonight.
You don't drink that much anyways.
I really don't.
I always see you with unsweet tea.
Unsweet tea. Artificially sweetened tea is what it is. Let's get it right.
Artificially
Get it
sweetened.
right.
My bad. I always got to give him crap.
Big C, I believe he's talking about what we were talking about the ability to read fish behavior and all that, because he says which is probably why Walter's 1 on 4 half the field had Livescope and they didn't win. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more to it than just buying a Livescope and going and catching them.
Yeah.
A lot more to it.
That dude did way more homework than anybody else did on that unit. I assure you that much.
Nicholas Torillo, he asked, do you think that screenshot was enhanced with Photoshop, or that's what you actually get from the product? Well, I believe that's what you get from the product, because I also saw another video of a dude that was looking at a single walleye, and when that walleye, and I saw the video, like it was the actual video, so you can't really doctor that very much, but when the walleye turned, you could see the same thing, the tail fin, the dorsal fin, and they caught that walleye, and they froze that video and screenshotted it, and posted a picture of that screenshot right next to that walleye laying on top of a cooler in the boat. Mm-hmm. And it was like identical, dude. Identical. So I do believe that you get that much detail. I've seen actual video where you can see those details of those fish that are moving, and you see the detail throughout. So
I think that doctoring up photos nowadays to try and sell a product, I don't think you can get away with it.
Too much gets exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the information age. Everything gets exposed. Yeah. I would agree that there's less deception in marketing now.
Yeah.
You can make the argument that maybe there's more because of that, but I think with everything getting exposed instantly now, there's probably less deception in marketing.
Right. I just think it's easier for that to come to light.
Same Nicholas says, however, the boat positioning on the top right is key and takes away a lot of confusion. Yes. Totally agree. He also says he's a huge fan and will hopefully see you in the spring. Man, I do hope to meet you. Definitely, if we were cross paths, holler at me. I would love to meet you. And you got to work on your taste in entertainment, bro. We appreciate that you're a huge fan, but man. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in your world that got you that monkeyed up. You watching us. We appreciate it, though. We do appreciate it. All jokes aside, thank you. The easiest fish to catch are the one in groups. I rarely catch a fish that is alone on Livescope. Well, that's another example of what we're talking about. That's going to be the deal, the skill, the thing that's going to separate the dudes that win the tournaments consistently and the guys that don't is going to be the people that understand the way those fish are behaving, where they will or won't bite. And that's an aspect of it. Finding fish in groups versus finding scattered individual fish.
See, Patrick Walters just had enough practice, if you will, because he wasn't targeting huge groups of fish. He had some groups of fish that he was fishing for, but he was fishing onesie, twosie.
Sometimes.
Yeah, and he was catching them.
Yeah, what did he say? He chased one fish like 200 yards and caught it or something like that. That's crazy.
And that's
like one fish. He's like a 6-pounder.
But again, that goes back to reading behavior and being able to use your technology to the best of your abilities and, whatever.
Nicholas is talking to us from New York City. He said, we love you out here in New York City. I've never been accused of being loved in New York City, but that's awesome. We love you out here in New York City. I've guided a bunch of his boys. That's cool, man. I know I've got a couple guys from up there that have gotten in the boat with me. I know Sean Andre Maldonado is probably one that you're talking about. He's a good dude, man. I really enjoyed fishing with him. Garmin has the boat directional icon. I didn't notice it on the ones that I fished with. I didn't see that. Maybe I don't know. Because the guy that I fished with Friday, he just got his Garmin like a couple months ago. So it's the newest version. I didn't see that. Maybe it's something you can turn on that I wasn't aware of. We are prone to make mistakes right here, just so y'all know. Here's a good question. We got Chris Unruh. Do you think another Chris? Do you think the shallow water fishermen will benefit from the live view along with 360? or would 360 alone be the way to go? No, I think there's. I don't think you're gonna. I don't think it's gonna be beneficial to shallow water fishing all the time, but I think there will be moments where it is. And so it's just about how important is it to you to have the best of the best. Because there are going to be moments where that Livescope will help you, if you learn how to use it, will help you catch a fish in shallow water, 100%. I believe there will be.
I just, what my brain keeps reverting to is, I keep thinking about dirtier water, early springtime, fish spawning a little bit deeper because it might be a little bit bigger, and you being able to use your active target to actually sight fish.
Yeah.
Spawning fish.
I don't think you need to do that because, well, maybe some deeper beds.
That's what I'm saying. Deeper beds that
yeah.
you can't see.
Yeah, that actually is a really good point. Like the deeper bed fish, that could be
a player.
Huge deal.
Yeah.
Because those are fish that oftentimes are pretty territorial and aggressive and don't ever get a bait thrown at them.
Right. Exactly.
Because no matter how good you can see bedfish, there's always some that you can't see that are deeper.
And I've always heard.
But man, that would just be, I don't know. I mean, that would be, again, it would be something you would have to work at to get so proficient at to where you could find those fish.
Well, because make no mistake about it, you personally seeing the fish with your own eyes, I understand how good this technology is, but there's still no replacement for seeing them with your actual eyes. So you're going to have to, you're going to still have to.
Well, you just mix in a little bit of both. You know what I mean? Like you sit up there and you find one that you locked in on, and while you're sitting there waiting on that fish to come back to bed or whatever, you take that Livescope for a little turn.
Yeah.
And you just look out wider and deeper and see if there's any out there.
Because how many times have you come up on a bed and seen a 5-pound male? Because we got those, and there's no female in sight.
Well, bro, let me tell you this. With guide customers, I will power pole down on a bed, and I've got 2 guide customers, and one guide customer will be up there, and I'll be up there in his ear working, helping him work the bedfish, talking him through it. And I always take the guy on the back deck and I give him a big stick bait, like a 6-inch Senko. Yeah. And I tell him, you just fan cast this and just keep casting the same. I don't care if we're here for 30 minutes, whatever. Yeah. You just keep making the same cast out in this open water behind the beds.
That's the move.
Because there's always big females roaming out there.
That's the move.
And so if you can actually see when those females are out there.
That's what I'm saying.
So now I can guide and I can have one guy flip into a bed and I can also at the same time be looking at my Livescope and turning it around, looking at it. Hey, back boat, Bobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Throw right there.
Yeah. Throw right there.
You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I'm telling you. Like, power pole down, okay, you're working on that when you can visually see.
And then I just turn my deal around whatever direction I want to when I see one. I say, hey, fire it over there, Hammer.
Dude, yeah.
I like it.
Because I've always heard that the bigger fish spawn in deeper water. Typically.
They do. They do tend to. Now, I will tell you, year before last, I watched a guy snag an 11-pounder in my boat out of a foot of water. Like, you could see him from a mile away. She was so big. And she was so shallow. So, some big fish, I think they're all different, but I do think, generally speaking, bigger fish do spawn deeper.
Yeah, what we saw in the Elite Series guy catch one off a bush live a couple years ago.
Which one? Remind me.
I don't remember who exactly. I can't remember who it was. It was an 11-pounder.
Brandon.
Brandon, yeah.
Yeah, that fish is up there where you can see it, no doubt.
So, but I don't know. I was just thinking about that because there's some areas of Fork, like the Upper West Side in Birch Creek, the water's not always the cleanest.
Greg Perry's good point here. He said Livescope on perspective mode in shallow water is the deal in the shad spawn. That makes sense. And I have caught bedfish in deeper muddy water with it. You will see beds that you never would know about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Just listen, it can't be about March 15th or 20th fast enough.
Dude, I'm telling you.
I'm so excited.
Well, that's what I just kept thinking about because I'm like, okay, the offshore summertime stuff, like that's cool. That's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. But what about the fish we never see on beds?
Yeah.
And we're never going to see. Just because.
How many giants on Fork over the years have been caught by a dude just flipping a jig in like 4 or 5 foot of water where you couldn't see them during the springtime?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, in fact, like the last 15-pounder that was caught a few years ago. The lake had rose real quick and got real muddy. And so what happened was you couldn't see very many of the bed fish. You could see some. But the bigger fish that normally might have been out in 8 foot of water was now in 3 to 4 foot of water because the water was dirtier. And she still has to get a certain amount of light penetration for those eggs. Mm-hmm. And so this dude's just flipping a black and blue jig in like 4 foot of water and catches a 15-pounder. Like, now I'm sitting here, my mind's going crazy. Like, my hamster's burning overtime. Because now you know what I can do? I can look for those double-digit teenage class fish spawning in deeper water. Like for me personally, if I go out on a day by myself, I can spend all day hunting for one giant that I can catch, and then lock up on her and try to catch her like she's a bedfish. Like,
yeah, that's where my brain's
bro.
going. Yeah. It's wild,
bro. And just to address the comment about the perspective mode during shad spawn, so for those that don't know, perspective mode, basically you take your transducer that points forward and you turn it sideways, and then it gives you like a broader view like this. It has a narrow angle going out this way in shallow water, but it has a broad view like this, and that just gives you a wide, where you don't have to just see something right in front of you in a narrow cone. You don't have to. That's gonna make it a lot easier to keep that fish in the scope and keep your bait in the scope. You just turn the transducer sideways, basically, is what it is.
Yeah.
But you have to manually turn the transducer. What I'm wondering is, when are one of these guys going to come out with like a box that has like the 3 different position transducers all in one box that you mount on there, and then you just change the mode, the view on your graph. You don't have to actually manually move the transducer
it's
every
like
time.
3 different auxiliary cables.
Yeah.
So you just basically ping, ping, ping.
That's going to be a big deal when somebody comes out with it, because that's got to be coming, I'm sure.
Gotta be. Because no offense, you can't be the first guy that thought of that. You know what I mean?
No.
Like we used to say it all the time. Like if it's possible, it'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, you know, we spun our wheels with the big swim baits day rig.
We did.
It just can't work.
Big John said, if not, it is now.
Yeah.
Like Chris said, there's no way that I'm the first one that's
There's
thought
no
of that.
way.
Like,
Yeah.
we need to be able to change the view modes on the screen.
I remember one time I'd said something to Billy about, hey, why ain't nobody thought about this? And he was like, bro, that's already been done. And I don't even remember what we're talking about, but I'm like, oh, okay.
Big C's got a good question here. He says, Billy, given where you are now in the decision process, have you fished using Livescope mounted separately from the trolling motor? I have. Heath Taylor has a boat. Now, it's been a while. But Heath Taylor has Livescope on his boat and has for some time now. He had it back in the early days. And he ain't using it for crappie fishing. He's won't hardly ever does anything on those swim baits anyway.
Right.
And big ones. But he's got a homemade deal that he mounted that's like a separate, it's just like your trolling motor dumps in the water. He's got a deal where his Livescope transducer comes in out of the water. It's mounted like right beside his trolling motor bracket. Mm-hmm. It does clutter up the front deck of the boat a little bit more when it's not in the water. But he just drops it in and has like a old school, like remember the old hand control trolling motors have a little hand control, hand steering. He's basically got a stick like that sticking up off that mount, and he just turns it independently. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, the video that we shot a year ago where we went out to honor Mr. Stan Smith, who passed away way too early, we went out there and we were fishing, and we were kind of throwing at an old vegetation line. It was old lily pad stems and vegetation mixed in, and we were kind of throwing at that outside edge of that during December. It was cold, and we were catching fish here and there. It was going pretty good, and we caught some good ones. And then we got kind of nosed into this corner, and right before we went to turn out that corner, he just went ahead and turned his Livescope that direction. And when he did, he saw like a big group of fish out there behind the boat, like out in open water, in like 6-8 foot of water in the middle. Like there was nothing out there. They were just out there chilling. He turned and saw that. He fired out there and caught one. Then I fired out there and caught one, and we proceeded to catch 40 bass off that one spot that we wouldn't have caught on a trolling motor mounted Livescope, because it would have turned with the trolling motor. We'd have been looking at the weeds most of the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, by the time we got that trolling motor pointed that far out there, them fish might not have still been there. We might have been too close to them.
Yeah.
But with that deal, he turned it and looked out there before he moved out that way, and we ended up catching 40 bass off one spot using that separately mounted. And I can tell you, I'm going to go over all these details about Garmin Livescope and the mounting and all this stuff in tomorrow night's video. But I think one of the biggest things you can do is mount that Livescope transducer separately, where it turns independently from your trolling motor. I think that's a huge deal.
I
Huge
think that's
advantage.
the way to go for sure.
It is.
Yeah. I ain't never.
And I don't know why these pros aren't doing it. I don't.
It just makes sense to me why you would. I mean, you don't handcuff yourself.
I mean, think about this. So if you're looking for those deeper bedfish, right? You get out in 10, 12 foot of water, and you get 80 foot from the bank, and you just turn your trolling motor to the left, and you just go down the bank.
Yeah.
And you're instead of having to constantly turn your trolling motor the direction you're looking, and he's there, but I got to turn the boat this way because of the wind. And on windy days, dude, it's like, that was one of our issues when we went to film this Livescope video. It was extremely windy Friday.
Yeah.
Man, we had heck trying to keep the Livescope pointed at the stuff we wanted to fish, because we were having a spot lock in the wind to hold our spot, and the trolling motor's turning, and we really couldn't just sit there and stare at what we wanted to. And if it would have been mounted independently from it, you could have turned the live scope right at the rocks and seen any fish that swam into that screen.
Right.
But we couldn't do that day because of the way the wind was blowing.
Yeah, the way my brain works, if it's independently mounted, I mean, you know some of the navigation we have to make in the back of some of these creeks, and you can just have it pointed that one direction that you're looking, and you can still sit here and navigate your way through some fields.
It's a big
and
advantage.
everything else.
It's a big advantage to me to have it mounted independently. Michael Menon says, last year I bought a 360 over Livescope because I felt like Livescope would have been too much of a distraction for myself. Yes, we mentioned this. You know, we've been talking about electronics a lot in everything we do here lately. And the seminar Friday night was no different. I went there talking about what time of year to start pre-spawn fishing, and it turned into an electronics discussion in the second half of the seminar because that's just what's on everybody's mind. Yeah. But, you know, one thing that we discussed is you got to remember how to fish. Like, you can get lost in this stuff. You're going to have to focus on remember your natural fishing instincts. Right. Every day is not going to be a Livescope day. Yeah. As good as this technology is, every tournament, every day is not going to be won by the Livescope. Yeah. I'm sure that a lot will, but you're going to still have to remember how to fish. Right. And so that can be a thing if you would get obsessed with it. Maybe you would distract you or whatever have you. Maybe that is your deal, and maybe you need to not have it. I would say not having it's not the best option or idea. Yeah. But you will definitely have to discipline yourself to remember how to fish. Man, we've been going on. We've been talking a long time about this deal.
I told you we was gonna get long with it on this. It's easy to talk about this and talk about different scenarios and different
They make a foot control independent transmission. Yeah, and I know there's option. There's little halo brackets where a little pole runs down beside your shaft, your trolling motor, it turns independently. There are options to mount it independently where it turns independently away from your trolling motor can turn and your transducer not turn. Yeah. That's why I really don't understand why these pros aren't doing that. Yeah. I don't know why they're not doing that. Doesn't make any sense. Now maybe it's because they're mounting a 360 and it also mounts on a halo bracket that sits beside your trolling motor shaft. Maybe so. It has a whole stick that goes down the water right beside your trolling motor shaft.
I mean, you're going to have, at some point.
I'm going to have a trolling motor shaft, I'm going to have a 360 shaft, and I'm going to have a Livescope all going in the water.
That it's going to look like a gate entrance to somebody's driveway.
That's right. That's right.
It's just going to be.
Or it's going to look like the nose of your boat is trying to escape a prison cell.
Yeah, something. It's going to look like Bass Boat Mad Max edition.
That's right. It's going to look mean. It's going to look mean. Does the sonar signal spook the fish? Yeah, at times. Yeah, at times. And I thought about that. When you've got a 360 sonar going and you got a regular sonar going and you
fish are going
on the back of the boat and you got a Livescope sonar pinging, man, that's a lot of noise in the water. There is going to be times where it may be an advantage to turn it off. Like I said, guys, not every day is going to be a Livescope day.
Well,
but there are also fish that are just really like some of these fish are dumb. Like it's a good thing too, or we wouldn't be here. But like they eat metal and plastic every day.
Every single day.
We've talked about it. They're not smart critters.
No.
So there's fish that. I mean, there could be a hurricane going on right above them. They'd still eat something.
There's just certain behaviors that we'll never understand. Or maybe we will.
Yeah, well, they do dumb things for dumb reasons because they're dumb.
Right.
You know, that's part of the game.
Yeah.
Hey, let's move on, dude. We've been going so long on this. I want to do this Christmas list. I definitely want to do this tonight because I think this is a good subject considering this is our last podcast before Christmas. But Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Hope you're enjoying some time with your family this week. Hope you get on the water with them maybe. But, you know, for a lot of us that are listening to this podcast and for me and you, when it comes Christmas time, we always get bass fishing stuff.
That's right. That's right.
And we know that a lot of you guys do as well or want to get bass fishing stuff. So we thought that we would come up with bass fishing Christmas list.
We're going to do y'all's Christmas list for you. Sorry it was so late.
Let's be real, dog. None of us guys have bought any presents yet. Like, I still got to go buy my wife.
Same.
Everybody, kid, mom. Like, I got to go buy everybody's stuff.
All of it.
And I'm going to hate that. One day I got to get out there. It's going to be so crowded. I'm going to hate it. And I'm going to curse myself. And I'm going to say, I'm never going to wait this long again. And then next year, I'll be out there on Christmas Eve shopping again.
That's right. Same, bro.
Because I'm going fishing Monday through Wednesday. I'm just telling you.
That's the move.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going fishing Monday through Wednesday.
Hey, it's a thing for a reason. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Some of the best ideas are the last ditch efforts. So let's get this started first.
What do you say the rules?
So here's what we're gonna do. Here's the rules. These are the ones I made up as we were going. So we're gonna do 3 baits.
I like how you make up rules.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Yeah.
See, American
As
way.
we're doing it.
So 3 baits, 3 rod and reel combos, or I mean, you can get as lax on that as you want to. Like, you can even go like, for example, you don't have to do like a 7/6 medium heavy, blah blah blah, micro guide eyes. You don't have to go that far in detail.
Wait a minute, 3 rod and reel combos. We got it.
Okay, and then 1 article of clothing and 1 graph.
1 electronic device.
Yeah. So I think it's
That'd be a good Christmas.
yeah, dude.
If you got 3 rod and reels, so a fishing clothing, 3 baits, and some type of graph, like.
Yeah, your father's obviously like Jimmy Houston or something.
Like, are you
This is
Boy
what-
Duckett's kid?
Yeah,
Like,
right, exactly.
What's
Right.
going on?
So it only seems fitting, pertaining to our conversation, that we do the electronic piece of equipment first. Right? Get the expensive one out of the way.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going Humminbird 360.
I'm going Active Target.
Okay. Glad we got
That's
that
a
out of the way.
good, you know what? Sidebar on the Christmas list. Time out. Bear with us, folks. That's a good question. I think they're 2 separate tools. I
They
think
are.
you absolutely need both of them. If you had to pick one over the other, which one would I pick? If I was only allowed to have either a 360 or an Active Target, which one would I pick? I'm going to say Active Target. Just because that technology is so unique and so different. And it's the only thing where you can watch a fish in deep water swim up to see your bait. It's the only thing.
Right.
You know, the Livescope obviously too. You have a choice, Livescope or Active Target, but now you have a choice. But to me, that is so unique and so dynamic. Yes, 360 actively shows me where every piece of cover and structure is around me. And that is great, and that's a huge deal. I can also, takes a lot more time, but do it the old-fashioned way where I idle by, side image it, waypoint it, and then go set up on it. And I've become pretty proficient at that over the years.
Right.
It's a lot easier with 360, but I can do it.
See,
Without.
the only
I
reason
can't- I can't actively see a fish swimming with anything else.
And so I was gonna say, to your point, the only reason I'm picking 360 over Active Target is because I'm not as proficient as
you suck.
driving by marking.
Because you suck at side imaging.
Well, I don't look at a graph as much.
He sucks at waypointing and setting up on them.
Yes, essentially, this takes all the thinking out of it for me,
Right,
to
it
where I
does.
can cast at targets.
Not only does it take, even the guys that can do it very efficiently
Efficient.
are using 360 because it is more efficient.
Right.
Yes, that's
So-
why they're using
Right.
it.
So that would be
Okay,
why I would pick
so
that.
you're getting a 360. I'm getting an Active Target. Back onto the Christmas list. Now we got to pick. What are we doing next?
Let's do a clothing article.
Okay, go ahead.
A good rain suit, man. And I don't think you can. Your brand preference is fine, but
Yeah.
a good rain suit is imperative.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I actually have the piece of clothing that I would want for Christmas, and that is a Striker Adrenaline rain suit. I got that last year in like March, and that is my favorite
Yeah.
all-weather suit I've ever had, and it makes my life so much better this time of year
Yeah.
or anytime it rains. My life is 100% easier on the water with that Striker Adrenaline rain suit, and it is bad to the bone. Actually, I like the look of it. I kind of like better than all the other ones too.
Yeah.
It's got like that black and white veil camo type stuff.
I remember
really
the
like
first rain suit I ever got, actual good rain suit.
Yeah.
And we were running down the lake. I was sitting in the middle of the boat, and it was cutting so much of the wind
Yeah.
that it pushes you back in
Yeah.
your seat, and I didn't feel a thing.
Well, bro, what was funny was when you first got that rain suit,
You remember this?
I do remember because I was driving and we had somebody else on the boat with us, and you were sitting in the middle.
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't remember if you were leaning forward first or leaning back first. Well, whatever it was, you switched. You went from leaning forward to leaning back, or maybe you went from leaning back to leaning forward.
Yeah.
But I'm driving down the lake and there's wind blowing everywhere. But when you shifted, it was deflecting so much wind
Yeah.
that it like moved me in my
Yeah,
seat.
yeah.
Like when you moved, it changed the wind deflection and like blew me sideways in my seat.
Yeah,
It was
dude,
wild.
From that day forward, because I'd always had, just kind of just a cheap rain
That was a
suit.
100-mile-an-hour seat, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
100-mile-an-hour suit. Still got it.
Yeah, yeah.
And dude, I'm telling you, that was like that to me changed it because,
Yeah.
dude,
It's really good
there's,
stuff.
There's nothing worse than a 25-mile-an-hour north wind in January.
I wish I could get you one of those Striker Adrenaline suits. You could try it because it's like as good as that 100-mile-an-hour suit is. It's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
That adrenaline suit, it does everything that suit does. It's so much more light and comfortable, and the way it fits, it doesn't wear you back down as bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
That's awesome.
And it looks cooler. And by the way, not during live, but in post-production, after this video posts, if you're watching it afterwards, I will post the link to the Striker website in the description of this.
Cool. You want to do rod and reels?
Yeah, we go through rod and reels, so I'll do 3 rod and reels first. Now, I've got every rod and reel I could want right now, thanks to the great sponsorships that I have with 6 Cents. But if I didn't,
This is more or less like, what 3 would you pick to want?
Yeah, if I didn't have any rods
Right.
and I had 3 that I wanted to get, what 3 rod and reels? I would want the first one that I would want would be a 7.5 medium heavy Divine series. And I would want a Team Lose Light Speed Spool, LITE. Yeah, there's a box of it right there. Anyway, Team Lose Light Speed Spool on that. The second rod that I would want would be, I'd want a 7.8 heavy broomstick Divine series from 6 Cents, and I'd put a Lose Super Duty LFSG on that.
It's a bad reel.
That's right. It's a good one. It's a good one. And the third one I would get would be a 7.1 medium heavy Century series.
I wonder what you're doing with that.
I'm gonna put a hyper mag on it.
Yeah.
A Lose hyper mag on
Uh-huh.
it. Those would be my 3 rod and reel combos that I'd want more than anything else if I didn't have any.
Okay. So I'm gonna basically go fishing style combos because I'm not gonna go as far into detail because I don't know as much. I would have a wacky rod. So
610 medium
yeah,
and a hyper mag probably.
a hyper mag.
A light reel like that.
I would have the biggest, longest, stiffest rod for jigging. Anything
Like a good jig rod.
good jig rod.
Be
So,
like a
7.5
or 7.7
Extra
heavy
heavy, yeah.
Century series would be a really good one.
That'd be a good one. And I would put I'd probably put one of them heavy duty Lose on there. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, Super Duty.
And then
On your flipping stick?
yeah, for sure.
All right.
A lot of wear and tear, man.
I got you. Come on.
And then I'd have to have a big swim bait rod.
That'd be that 7.8 heavy.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Very similar.
Similar rod,
Yeah.
similar, but I'd probably put a Daiwa Tatula on there just so I can make a little bit longer cast.
Oh, that's Super Duty. I promise you. Ain't no Tatula going.
Well,
Is it Tatula or is it Tatula?
I don't know.
That's
Whatever
a really
it is.
good debate.
I've got 3 of them, and those are the only other reels that I have other than
Yeah.
Lose, and I like them a lot.
Yeah.
And they're good for deep cranking.
Somebody comment, is it Tatula or is it Tatula?
Is it spatula or Tatula?
I don't know how you're going to comment that because it's spelled the same way no matter how you pronounce it.
It's Tatula. Bro, it's Tatula. All right.
But, you know.
Moving on to baits.
Baits.
3 baits.
Go ahead.
So it'd basically be the 3 baits that you'd want. I'm going chatterbait. Oh, no, I'm not. Scratch that. I'm going lipless, jig, swim bait. Big swim bait.
Like a big swim bait. Like one of them?
Like one of them.
One of them. Are you going big hard swim bait or big like soft
body.
plastic?
Big soft body.
Okay. Tatula. Or that still could be tattoo. No, it's Tatula.
It's got to be
Tatula. That's what he's saying.
Tatula.
Somebody, sorry, Squirrel. We had a comment on the pronunciation.
Sound like Bobby Boucher. Tatula. It's Tatula.
All right, I got to do some baits. What 3 baits am I going to get for Christmas?
Zach Watts is turning over right now, mad at me that I didn't say wacky worm.
I'll take a pack of Zoom trick worms.
Yeah, that's what Zach would say. You send the other 2 to the kids.
What 3 baits would I want for Christmas? I don't know. We're doing this on the fly. I haven't really thought about it.
Neither did I.
I want the new, hasn't been released yet, but it's about to be released, big glide bait from Smash Tech.
Fair.
Big 7-inch gizzard shad glide bait from Smash Tech. I want that. That's new. This is hard for me because I have all the baits that I want.
Right.
In my line of work, if I want a bait, I get it.
Yeah.
There's not anything in my boat that I want that I don't have as far as baits go.
More or less geared to the next couple months. Like,
I want that new glide bait. I want a Movement 80X. I want a Movement 80X and shad drone.
I didn't say Alabama.
Yeah. and I want an 8-bladed Alabama rig.
I didn't say that.
From
I just
Smash
thought
Tech.
about that. Yeah.
With all the swim baits already attached.
Yeah. I ain't trying to attach no swim baits.
So let's compare lists so these guys can vote in the comments on who made the better Christmas list. If you go with Chris's list, you're going to get Humminbird 360. You're going to get, what kind of foul weather gear are you picking?
I mean,
you like that 100-mile-an-hour suit?
yeah, I mean, I like it's because it's what I know.
Okay, so you're going to get a Humminbird 360, a 100-mile-an-hour suit for all weather gear.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get
swim bait rod.
You're going to get a big jig rod, a big swim bait rod, and a wacky worm rod,
Yeah.
and reels to go with all of them that are appropriate. And then you're going to get, what do you say, a chatterbait?
No, it's a lipless.
A lipless crankbait,
jig.
a jig,
big swim bait.
and a big swim bait.
Soft bite.
If you go with my list, you're going to get a Lowrance Active Target.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a Striker adrenaline all weather suit.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a 7.5 medium heavy rod that does a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get a big swim bait rod or Alabama rig rod. You're going to also get another all-around rod in the 7.1 medium heavy series that you can go anywhere from wacky worm to Texas rig, the crankbait, shallow cranking. You even throw a chatterbait on if you wanted to, all that stuff. So that's what you're going to get with the reels on that. And then you're going to get not yet released glide bait that's about to come out. Big 7-inch glide bait. What else did I say?
8-bladed Alabama rig.
An 8-bladed Alabama rig and a Movement 80X.
Movement 80X. That Movement 80X is a bad dude. Still to this day.
It is. It is. Big John's with Chris. Big John's with Chris. He says, Chris for the win with 360 and lipless. The 360 and the lipless crankbait sold him.
See, I've seen a lot of what Big John posts on social media, and I think that we fish similar.
You know what? I'm gonna change the Movement 80X to a 6-inch frog just because they're so hard to get.
Golly.
There we go. You get a frog, not a Movement 80X.
So if you go with Billy's list, you get expedited. And Amazon delivers it right to your door.
That's right. You get a lot of unreleased. If you notice, like everything I got was unreleased. The
Yeah.
Active Target you can't get your hands on
Right.
yet. The glide bait you can't get your hands on yet. And the frog you can't get your hands on. It's out of stock.
You pretty much got rod and reels with a line on them, no baits,
Yeah.
and no electronics to fish for them. And a rain suit. So you can stand out at your mailbox in the rain and just jig. Nothing.
Yeah, well, we gonna throw that Alabama rig a little bit.
Yeah, you can throw that frog on your neighbor's roof.
I mean, I've got some of those frogs.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know you do.
So if you go with my list, I'll send you my personal frog. Vote Billy 2020, folks.
They got you. They're gonna timestamp you on that, dude.
Well, we're tied 2-2 right now. We need a couple more votes so we get a tiebreaker.
That's funny. Yeah, you got to break the tiebreaker. Billy and I are way too competitive.
Oh yeah,
to
y'all
let it
gonna
in
have to
on
give us a
time.
tiebreaker. We got Big John voted for you, and then Kyle Wilmoth voted for me. Cedar Creek Freak voted for Chris, and then Jason Moore voted for me with the frog. The frog got him.
Yeah.
Big John says I got 2 6-inch frogs I'm trying to give away on Instagram. There you go.
Come on.
Y'all go follow Big John. What's your Instagram profile? Drop it on here. We got 2 more for Chris. What the heck, man? What's going on? I'm about to get beat.
Everybody loves a good underdog story, Billy.
Y'all hey, somebody put 3 Billy votes in there, and this live stream will end like that, Jay.
That's funny.
Oh, everybody likes a good underdog story. I do usually beat you on these.
Yeah.
Usually. Usually. We need to start doing some more lists. I like lists.
The lists are good.
I like the lake list and all that. That was good.
I like them when they're off the cuff, though, and we don't have time to pre-plan them because it's easier for us to miss stuff.
Well, I don't know whether you like them off the cuff or not, but that's how we're going to do it.
Yeah,
That's
for
how we do everything.
For sure.
Dang, we got another. You were up by 3, then I got a vote, so you're still up by 2. What the heck is going on around here?
I don't know, man.
I'm getting my butt beat tonight.
Yeah, it'll be all right. Everybody also loves a good comeback story.
It's the same as here. Big John's Instagram profile is Big John's Life.
That's right.
So go over on Instagram, Big John's Life. He's trying to give away some 6-inch Vega frogs. David G says, have you or any of your clients entered any bass scales to Texas Freshwater Fish Hatchery for research? Haven't been able to land an 8+. Man, we have gotten a couple, but you know what, dude? I'm so bad about remembering things like that. Like, I kicked myself like a couple days after each trip when it happened. I was like, dang it, I was supposed to do that. I didn't. Mm-hmm. But no, I haven't sent any in. I need to. Joshua Coggin says, I'd like to have a good cold weather suit. I've got the 200-mile-an-hour suit already. I can't stand being cold on the water. Yeah, I hear you. One
It's
thing
a
about
game
that
changer.
Striker company that I will tell you is they're like established up north, like with ice fishermen and guys up in that area. And so they do make other suits besides the adrenaline suit that are like super warm. Like dudes go ice fishing in them. So if it can handle that, it can handle anything Texas weather is going to throw at you.
Yeah. Because Texas weather, like, it's just bipolar at worst. You just don't know what you're going to get.
How far can Mr. Rich Rasmussen ask us? How far can electronics go in tournament fishing and it still be considered fishing? To me, man, I don't think that being able to locate and visibly see the fish makes it not fishing. Otherwise, we need to ban sight fishing in the spring.
Yeah.
You can't catch them off a bed in the spring if it's not fishing, if you can see them.
Well,
and all these electronics are doing is showing them to you. They're not catching them. There's still the art of running those electronics, right? And being efficient, like we talked about, and having the skill to know which ones are going to bite, and then making those fish bite and landing them.
Well, to that argument too, this isn't the Alabama rig of Paul Elias. This is readily available to everybody. So, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like everybody can use it. Everybody can go buy a Livescope and get it put on their boat and use it. Mm-hmm. So it's not an unfair advantage. When it becomes an unfair advantage, that's the only way I see them stepping in and saying, "Hey, we're not gonna do this."
No, I know. I don't think they should have outlawed the Alabama rig either.
I don't think so either, and especially now. Like, let them throw it. Like, I want to see them catch 5 at a time, because those guys will do it. 5-pound, 25-pound.
We did get another Billy vote, so you're only up by 1 vote right now.
Well, you know what? We need a. Thanks for joining. We'll see you later.
Not how it goes.
Not how it goes.
We live stream on my phone, so I'm the one turning it off. So this might be a 25-hour live stream if we don't get the votes.
Better get comfortable. That's funny.
Oh my goodness! Looks like Chris, you're gonna get a win. Can't believe it. It's not fishing anymore, it's hunting. It's a lot more like hunting.
Yeah.
I still think it's fishing because of everything we talked about. You still got to understand their behavior and make them bite.
Right.
You still have to.
Yeah.
And it's still the guys that are going to be the best at that are going to be the ones that win.
That's right.
David G says he ordered his striker suit Friday so I can stop freezing. Absolutely.
Oh, you got another vote.
Oh, we're tied up. Hey, deal. Next vote wins no matter who it's for. Next vote wins no matter who it's for. Somebody vote for Chris. I actually wouldn't mind seeing him win one. I mean, I would, but it'd be all right. I'd get over it.
There's worse things in life that
now
can happen.
we're waiting.
We're
with
anxiously
suspense.
Waiting. Oh,
David G! Let's go, baby!
David G.
With the comeback.
The G stands for gosh dang it.
Was it gosh dang it or is it got dog it?
Yes. Thought I had one in the bag for a change.
I thought you had me.
I was like the tortoise and you're the I was the hare, you were the tortoise.
Fits if you look at us.
That was a game of the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
Did he vote twice? I want to recount.
Oh, you got to have a recount in 2020. Let's see. Make sure David G didn't vote twice.
Oh, he said the frog got me.
Oops, what are we doing here?
Don't report nobody. He voted for Chris. Report.
No, I don't see any other votes from David G.
You got it. He said the frog got him.
Cam says he'd be asking for some jerkbaits. The 6 cents have a smaller jerkbait or just one size? Just the one size. They used to have a deeper diving one, but the body was still the same size, and they don't have that deeper diving one now. But the Provoke 106X is the only jerkbait that they have, suspending jerkbait.
Did I tell you about
They've got a hyper jerk, something weird.
So you know that gold, that all gold, is it called gold shiner in the Provoke?
The gold chrome one?
Yeah.
It's called Gold Reactor.
Gold Reactor. So we were fishing on this one lake. I'm not gonna say the name, but
who was? Me and you, or just you?
Me and Cam.
Okay.
And
oh yeah,
I had that thing. Yeah, I had that thing tied on, and it looked nothing like the bait they were chasing, like at all. And I just fired it in the middle of school and fish, and I was catching them like every cast for a while.
Yeah, sometimes doing something different than what they're chasing is the key to school and fish.
Well, it's just weird to me, and I don't think I think I still got it tied on that rod. I was like, yeah, you're never coming off, because you know I fall in love with baits.
You know what? I think I got a good way to wrap this up tonight.
Come on.
Last comment right there from Cedar Creek Freak says, "Drain the swamp."
Drain the swamp.
Drain
I love
the swamp.
It. I love it.
Hey, how about 10 seconds in liberal tears to close us out tonight? Hey, liberals, you are the swamp. Go cry about it.
That's
10
right.
seconds in liberal tears. Chris, do that thing you do. I got him. I stumped him for once. Let's go. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks, guys.